I want to show you a clip from one of my mentorship sessions. Now, this student is working on a project of a desert with two suns. And when we started talking about the project and the world and her ideas, I asked her one question that completely changed the way that she was thinking about the actual design. And this is honestly one of the most important things as environment artists. And this is one of the things that most artists skip right over. And if you're interested in this type of mentorship, I'm going to leave the link in the description below.
Astrology area.
Yeah.
And then with some sort of, I don't know, telescope or something to see the sun and the stars. And then there's obviously a palace for the royalty and the, and also like because my world view is like really heavily involving the two suns and their interaction. There will be like a period during the day that the two suns cross
sorry,
the
I lost
sky.
your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know which part.
You said that
you were lost.
Since they gotta deal with the two suns.
Yes. So the two suns, when they're both in the sky, it's going to be like really hot and really high radiation, and it's extremely dangerous to be out. So everybody will be like indoors and undercover. And I think that's a great opportunity for like a religious gathering or prayer time. I do want to design a location involving that.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty vague, so I probably need to like more specifics.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I sort of passed by is that, well, yes, you do have to think about functionality of the actual of what the purpose of that building is for. However, in most cases, when you're building cities and architecture, you're always going to have besides those very specific buildings and functions, you're also going to have sort of like a general things, right? You're always going to have if it's like a city, maybe you always have like towers, some protective wall type thing, if there's like so those things are sort of like general that you can sort of start getting an idea similar to what you did here, right? Like you could transform this one here into a dwelling for a family, right? Like this could look like a house, right? And so you're always going to have those things. But thinking about the two suns, I want you to also think about that particular, because that's a very key design element of this space. And so the architecture needs to reflect that in a way, right? And so I'm thinking that if these people don't need to be or don't want to be too much inside these buildings, in the architecture in itself, maybe you have some sort of, which you can include the mechanical part of it. Maybe you can have some sort of like canopy sort of idea behind it that it could rotate with the placement of the sun, so they can always find shade around these buildings on the outside.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's no, besides being inside, there's no covering for this, right? And if there's two suns all the time, they need to find ways to find shade in a desert like this. Does that make sense? And so coming up with a way that they can find that, right? Maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe some like awnings or stuff that rotates around the building, right? So we could see the tracks of the awning where that would rotate, and so they can always find shade in those in those sections. Maybe in some of these, right, we can see cutaways or something of the rooftop. So in some angles, if the sun is in this direction, maybe they can rotate this to have an open space here, so they can actually be sort of outside, but they're in the shade because this is covering, the sunlight type thing. And it's sort of like this whole thing could also like rotate or like close into a full sphere or something like that, right? And so I'll find ways to portray that idea with the design of this architecture for sure.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be your ground base of the design, like your compass for each of these buildings that we have to make in here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll try to think of something, and I'll probably need your help along the way.
Of course. That's why we're here.
Yeah, it would be super interesting to have like a really specific design around that idea, but right now I can't really think of anything that's yeah, I'll work on that.
Yeah, and like this is the, and I want you to think of this process. This is the hard part, right? Figuring these things out. Like this is really the hard part of everything. Making the renders and building it up in 3D, like all that stuff is easy. Like we can do that, right? But thinking about this stuff and making it make sense, that's the hard part. So it's not gonna be easy, right? And even stuff like these scribbles that I'm making, like I'm even thinking like, oh, maybe there's like let's say this is the ground, right? And maybe the walls maybe the suns are not, you know, they don't go as high on the sky, right? Maybe they're sort of like lower on the horizon, right? So maybe they, instead of regular walls like this, maybe they have, I don't know, maybe slanted walls. So they take as much shade as possible because of the angle of the wall, with the angle of the sun, right? So that could be, so they have longer time shades because of the angle of the walls, or maybe the walls have a specific, you know, attachment or something that comes out whenever they need a shade, an extra shade or something. And so even stuff like this, like scribbles like this, as I'm thinking about it with you, like I will be, this is exactly how I do when I'm thinking about ideas that are hard. Like I just go into a black canvas and I just do stuff like this, and I make notes, and I write things up, and I try to gather everything that goes into my mind into the visual, so then I can sort of deal with it, right? So even if by next week, like I wouldn't even worry now about where's the notes? I wouldn't worry much about like I would even take these that you have here, these that you made, and see how can I portray that with that idea, or coming up with anything new that sort of supports that idea with the sun and the shade and all that stuff.
Yeah, so initially in terms of like having like that idea of having maximum shade, initially I thought of like a city that's like just underground, and it's like this vertical pit, and the whole city is vertical. And then when I tried to draw it, it's like it's way too hard to design, and I basically just lose any type of like architecture that I can build. So I just scratched that idea.
Yeah. And you can see that maybe, you know, with the environment too, like if there's like corals and stuff like that, like you will see them building things on, like if there's like a coral, like a big coral here, right? And this is the size of a person, let's say, but this is maybe like a big coral, or even like a reef, or like a underwater, sort of like a wall. They will build things close to it, right, to get as much shade as possible, using whatever the environment gives them, you know?
So yeah, you want to always ask yourself why you're designing the way that you're designing. Why does this building look like this? What problem is it solving from the environment that it's in? So that's one question that will really take your environments to the next level. It's gonna stop just looking like something cool into something that is actually usable and believable in the world that you're building. So if you want this type of feedback and help in your work, make sure that you check the information about my mentorship program that I'm gonna leave the link down below if you're interested. See you in the next one.